Welcome back. Um, it has been a while. Things may look a little bit different here. Um, yeah, I haven't put anything out in a little bit, just because I was trying to get my setup correctly how I wanted it. So stuff looks a little bit different around me, which I'm pretty happy with. I'm gonna add more stuff to this, but I've got all my instruments near me, behind me, around me. I have a new camera, which is pretty exciting. So there's no more stupid IV Cam logo above my head because I refused to pay for the monthly fee for IV Cam. No one has time for that. So I decided to buy a $170 webcam. Not a big deal. So hopefully the quality's a lot better. I did a little comparison, and that quality, even though it was from my phone, looked like trash garbage. And this is a little smoother. I think the colors are okay. Lighting is still whatever. But bear with me. I don't know what I'm doing. So today I'm going to be breaking down this song called Turbulence IV, which I put out a video for on the 1st. Yeah, that came out on New Year's. Refilmed that video in like 2017, I think. Yeah, like 2017 or 2018, probably like 2018 is when we filmed it. And we just kind of sat on the footage for a while because there was some stuff that got messed up and lost and blah, blah, blah. And so we ended up salvaging what we could. And yeah, put it together and put the video out. If you haven't seen it, there's probably a link above my head for it. So check that out and then come back and see how I made the beat for it. Yeah, that video was from a while ago, and this beat is also from a while ago. I made this like 4 years ago or something. And it all stems from this sample here. I called it Lee Daniels. I don't know why I called the song Lee Daniels. I don't know why I name anything anything. It's just whatever comes to my head. This beat sounded like the name Lee Daniels. So it all stems from this sample here, which comes from a sitar recording from my keyboard. I've had this keyboard for like almost a decade now. Still works great. And I recorded it on my phone. I think I had like an iPhone 6 or something at the time, and I did a voice recording that I still have, and I emailed it to myself because that's what I had to do at the time, and I pulled the sample into Fruity Loops. But it's I think I remember what I played. I think it's this. Nope. I don't know. Probably something like that. You'll hear it. If you have a good ear, you'll be able to find out what notes I played. It's probably that. I don't remember. So, here, it's hanging out in track 6. So I can play it clean. There's just reverb on it. I didn't even EQ anything. I think I tried to EQ it, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I turned the EQ off, and I just put reverb on it. But here's what the sample sounds like without anything. It's that looped over and over again, and the cool thing, if you listen to it, you'll hear me hitting the actual notes. To turn my keyboard off, I have to take the batteries. But you'll hear me actually tapping on the notes, which I think is cool. It added like a nice percussive element to it. So there's like an extra layer above the notes, and also I'm hitting the sustain, so the notes are bleeding together, and also it's recorded through a phone. So it sounds kind of not good, but I'm okay with that because it matched the vibe of the song. So it starts off with a 4 count of that sample, so I just went like that or whatever, and then it counted up the song. And the reverb just adds some space to it, makes it a bit more open. Next up is the bass line, which I did on this guy. This is my Akai LPK 25. I've had this for like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. It's awesome. It's a great like starter MIDI controller if you're looking to get into MIDI controllers. I use it for FL. It's also got like these pressure sensitive keys, so depending on the velocity of how hard I hit it, I think that makes sense, then the volume will change, which is kind of cool. Sometimes it's whatever. I wish I could turn it off, but I end up creating some interesting sounds from it. So I used that and created this bass line, which the bass line I used in Morphine. This is a really nice plugin. I think this is a free VST. If it's not, it came with Fruity Loops, and I just found it randomly. It's got really good bass sounds in it. It's got a lot of really good pads, but I really love the bass sounds that come stock in this. It's hard to find good stock bass sounds, especially if you are a bass player who doesn't like synthy sounding basses. So they have this acoustic bass that I use quite often. Actually, I use the, or I did, that's not the acoustic. What did I use here? Yep, it's an acoustic bass guitar. And it sounds pretty cool. The other one I like to use is the upright bass. Both of them sound pretty good on there. I don't think I used the acoustic bass on here. I think when I switched over, it changed it to something. Whatever, it's fine. Here, let me do this. Let me reload it. And then we're going to figure out the bass sound I used, because this is professional. It's an Ibanez bass, which is actually what I have behind me. That's an Ibanez Jet King. I don't know why they just called this Ibanez bass. I think whoever made the VST just recorded themselves playing that brand of bass guitar and decided to call it that. There's nothing that makes it that distinct. But yeah, before I fuck that up from switching things around, again, there's a lot of really cool sounds in here that you can pick and choose from. But I will say the acoustic bass and the upright bass in Morphine are really, really cool. You get more of a natural sound, and then those end up sounding even weirder when you add effects to it, which is what I always do. So the bass line clean sounds like this. Reverb and distortion. It's fine. Not too bad. It's got a really great rhythm. I'll let it play out. So as you can see, it doesn't really follow the rhythm of the sitar sound much, but it does follow the root notes, so it ends up matching, but it adds some complications to it. I'll just use that word. So with the reverb, opens it up, adds more space, and then the distortion gives it a nice crunch. I love this fruity, fast distortion. It gives me like really, really fat distortion sounds that are just stock, and I just mess with the volume. And then with this sitar. And the drums follow their own rhythm. So that's what they hear what the drums sound like. Kicks I didn't do anything to except stack. Keep stacking your kicks. I've been stacking my kicks for like 5 years. Almost every tutorial I show you will probably have a stacked kick. This one sounds a little more open and gruff, and this one's punchy. So when those two are on top of each other, you get 2 layers. The snare, I think I just put, yeah, there's just some reverb on the snare. Gives it some space. And then the hat should have reverb and a flange. I love putting flange on my hats. That's another secret that I may have mentioned before. It gives it a nice syrupy feel. And that doesn't really match the bass line or the sitar. Here's with just the bass. Everything's kind of doing its own thing, which is something I love doing. None of the instruments have to like match a specific rhythm. As long as they have the same like root note and they're in the same key, then I think it ends up working out pretty well. If you're making beats for somebody, I wouldn't recommend doing this because it may not be fun for them to rap over, or it may be a little more difficult for them to rap over. Not saying I'm some like top tier rapper. I mean, you know, but it does add an extra challenge to it. But if there is a rapper that can really find a nice pocket with some conflicting rhythms, the song ends up sounding that much more amazing because there's another layer to it. And it's like 4 different instruments are happening at the same time, which there are, but it kind of ends up sounding like a band is playing. There's a drummer, there's a guitarist, there's a bass player, and there's a singer. Each of them are kind of doing their own things, but they end up meshing really well, and they end up fitting into each other's pockets. Not all bands. Sometimes the bass player matches the drummer, while the guitar does a lead rhythm or melody, and then the singer sings on top of that. I've just described what a band is. But the cool bands like to find their own little pockets, and those are the ones that I'm most influenced by when I make these kinds of beats. The last thing I added was this, or one of the last things I added was this little rim. I call it a rimble. It's just a trap bell and a rim sound that adds some texture. This has the same reverb as the snare, and then this has an echo on it. So it ping pongs. Not something that you would notice listening to the song when everything's playing, but if you catch it, then it adds a little extra to it. You know, I put like Easter eggs in my songs. You know what I'm saying? This little fill is just the same thing I did in the beginning. So I took the drum with the sitar. I took the drum and just chopped it. This is a really nice way to add in some fills and break up your drums or your instruments or whatever. So I did it to this drum part, and I did it to this this bell. So soloed out is this. And then this last part in the song, I say what again, and I ended up just taking, that's a reference to Pulp Fiction. Samuel L. Jackson says, "Say what again?" And I took that vocal chop and just added it to the part where I say it in the song, and I put a love filter on it, which I've talked about before. Who knows what it does? It's just great. And then actually I think this is like a low pass, so it puts it in the lows. And then this is a reverb. It's a big hall reverb, so it ends up sounding a little spacier than just the reverb that I put on the snare. See how it keeps going? That's the reverb. So without everything, just a clip from the movie. And then with all this stuff. And that really, really matches well with the harshness of the bass line and the sample. That's it. That's Turbulence 4. Did I tell you the name of the song? The same name of the song is Turbulence 4. And the video is on my channel currently. You can go watch it. It's a great video. Made by some really, really cool people. I'm in it also. And it's off the project OCD, Anxiety, and Poetry, which you can find on my website. It's a compilation of 3 EPs that I put out like 4 years ago, I think. And it still bangs. It's a great song. And this was a pretty cool beat. Very simple. Just a few sounds. And I don't know. I did it. Who cares? Okay. I hope you liked it. Goodbye.